Good evening. While the Lions are struggling to impress on the field, the All Blacks have major problems off it. Former captain Anton Oliver and loose forward Musa Tuiali'i have both been ruled out of the first test in 9 days and aren't certainties for the rest of the series either.
Well, the call is going out for a law to be introduced making drug and alcohol use at sea illegal.
A report on the sinking of the Iron Maiden fishing boat off Cape Reinga last August has been released overnight. It says the police rescue team had nothing to do with the deaths of the 2 men. That's despite police being accused of a confused rescue operation with delays in sending a helicopter.
The Kyoto Agreement was supposed to save the planet from global warming, despite the fact the US wouldn't sign up. But never fear, New Zealand, we were told, was in the box seat. All our pollution-absorbing forests would leave us with carbon credits in the bank. Whoops, turns out the calculations were wrong. How did it happen? The minister responsible and the MP calling for his head join us shortly. But first, this from Connie Buchanan.
When New Zealand ratified the Kyoto Protocol 3 years ago, we committed ourselves to fighting global warming.
You have to be part of international solutions, and that's what ratifying means.
Well, 8 weeks of sequins and sambas, tangos and tantrums have all come down to this, the final of Dancing with the Stars. It's the former All Black up against a former bad boy of Shortland Street. There have been blisters, there have been bruises, at least one trip to A&E, and even hate mail. Dancing with the Stars has had all the drama of ballroom dancing.
Well, as the debate surrounding meningococcal vaccine program rages, a rise in the number of people with meningitis has health officials worried. They're particularly concerned about the Waikato. 2 students from Huntly College have been hospitalised with meningitis and 16 other cases have been confirmed throughout the region. That's double the cases at this time last year. I'm joined now by Dr Anita Bell, the Medical Officer of Health from the Waikato District Health Board. Good morning, Dr Bell.
Well, I'm not sure whether although it's a rise or an increase on last year, I think it's what we were saying all along is that the level of meningococcal disease cases is high. I think it's making the problem worse for parents out there because the signs and symptoms of meningococcal disease are very similar to the ones that we put out for influenza and cold-like fever, you know, flu-like symptoms, stiff necks, aches and pains, and with the little ones it's even worse because they can't talk to you. Well, obviously, for most of the older children, stiff neck, fever, sore throat, headaches, a lack of, not being able to look at the lights, and also the rash, very important. That's a kind of a sign of the septicemia, which is a much more serious part of the meningococcal disease, the meningitis and the septicemia.
All right, Dr Anita Bell, thank you for being with us.
Welcome back. Shares in restaurant brands rose again yesterday. That's after spiking 25% Wednesday on news of the takeover bid by Australian private equity firm CVC Asia Pacific. David Young dropped by the company's AGM to gauge shareholder reaction. The government's long-standing claim that signing the Kyoto Protocol would earn the country money is in tatters, with predictions of a $500 million surplus replaced by the revelation the country will spend that much on credits. The business sector has long opposed New Zealand's early sign-up to the protocol. Phil O'Reilly from Business New Zealand joins me now to talk about what comes after we told you so. Good morning, Phil.
Good afternoon. 2 preschool-age boys were found dead after a house fire in Tauranga this morning. The fire broke out in an Otomotai Road home in the suburb of Brookfields at around 7:30. The children's mother awoke in time to help her daughter outside, but was not able to rescue her 2 sons. A passing security guard was also unable to get inside the home. The mother and her daughter are now in hospital. They're being treated for smoke inhalation.
Plans by thousands of Southern Rugby fans to meet the touring Lions are in tatters tonight. Lions management is clamping down on community events, cancelling some and rescheduling others. But the Lions say they're better than the All Blacks at meeting the public.
A device that hopes to tackle health problems in the elderly during the cold winter months by keeping a record of the temperatures inside their homes was launched in Christchurch yesterday. But as Charlotte Whale finds out, the brains behind Envirotech are not exactly in the product's target market.
Well, the fate of the Kyoto Protocol here in clean green New Zealand is now in question.
And where once we were expecting carbon credits, we're now in line for a bill. The National Party is calling it a $1 billion bungle.
Well, on Close Up last night, Climate Control Minister Pete Hodgson admitted the benefits of the Kyoto Agreement had been overstated.
I'm saying that we need to work within the new reality that what we had thought was going to be Kyoto forest that we could count, turns out that we can't count after all because of the way that the rule is interpreted, and so on. We are still very keen to sell it. Be very clear, we are not walking away from Kyoto one iota.
And I think, a lot of that's about opportunity. You can't give the All Blacks too many opportunities. Their skill level's too high. They're going to punish you.
So the Minister is staunch in his support of the protocol, but the opposition to it is getting louder. I'm joined now by economist Alex Sundekov and Peter Nielsen from the New Zealand Business Council for Sustainable Development. Good morning to you both. Alex, can I come back to you? Peter's right, we are a small game in town. Are we sticking our neck out by signing the protocol? I mean, you've got the third world who've either signed up to it and are exempt, or they haven't signed up to it at all. And then in the first world, you've got the major polluters who haven't signed up.
Well, despite his team losing, the Wellington coach John Plumtree was not very impressed with the Lions. He reckoned if the All Blacks had been playing them last night, they would have hammered the Lions.
To Friday's weather outlook, and a complex trough with multiple lows will head on to the north of the North Island today. Meanwhile, a cold front lies over the east of the South Island and will reach the North Island by lunchtime. And I'm sorry to say, there's another cold front heading onto the South Island tomorrow, making for a chilly night at the rugby test, I'm afraid. So
some infertile couples are being told they'll now have to wait more than a year to begin IVF treatment. Last year, the government pumped $4 million into IVF, but now there are questions over the best way to spend it.
Almost 2,000 women undergo fertility treatment annually, but it's now emerged many of those wanting IVF will have to wait up to a year to start once they're deemed eligible. Auckland and Wellington are worst affected. Patients in those areas face double the delay compared with this time last year.
Well, steel yourselves. The final of Dancing with the Stars is this weekend. Will it be Norm or Shane? Or are you still pining for Tim? In the States, the American version is down to its final 5. And our own Rachel Hunter is competing. Today, it was tango time. Well, that was Rachel a few hours ago off the satellite. I'm pleased we've got that going. I was going to bring Judy back in for a twirl around the studio. And we'll have more on that, of course, for you next week, as well as our rugby special. That's New Zealand Close Up.
Whenever we've had episodes of publicity about infertility, there's been an increase in the number of people presenting for first consultations.
Whether she'll get that second chance will depend on how much is left in the kitty. Karen Rutherford, One News.
Well, to the week in politics, one noted for an apology from our High Commissioner in Canada after racist comments he made which offended Māori and Asian communities. Noted too for yesterday's admission that the government had massively underestimated the cost of implementing the Kyoto Protocol. Political reporter Guyan Espiner is here to look at the week in politics. Morning to you, Guyan. Let's talk about Graham Kelly first of all. Has that quietened down now, or are we going to see into next week more calls for his resignation, do you think?
The political party whose leader is well known for digging up dirt on other people is tonight reeling from its own controversy. One of ACT's promising newcomers has quit the party list under a cloud.
Andrew Paulson was unavailable for an interview today, but he confirmed to One News that there was an incident in the early 90s that he says he's not proud of.
Team New Zealand's dream run through the America's Cup regatta in Valencia has been firmly stomped on by their old nemesis Alinghi. The Cup holders took out the first of this year's 6 events with a combination of Swiss efficiency and a turn of speed that has rattled their rivals.
Well, the latest One News Colmar Brunton poll makes interesting reading, and it's not good news for the government.
It shows National 2 points ahead of Labour and comes after a damaging week for the government. Well, the race row dogging former Labour MP Graham Kelly in Canada was one problem, then the Kyoto news. Revised figures mean instead of a $500 million economic gain, we're looking at a $500 million bill to pay. Earlier this morning, I spoke to Prime Minister Helen Clark. I started by asking her if she was unhappy with the poll results.
You know, look at those poll results, Paul. Labour went into government in 1999 with just under 39% of the vote, and in 2002 with 41 point something. there we were in that poll on 41%. I think what's happened on the other side of politics is some of the smaller right-wing parties have collapsed, and that's added on to national support. But it's also clear that National and New Zealand First banked on there being an early election called, and they've been out and spent a lot of money and fired a lot of their shots. Now, Labor didn't call an early election, and we've got a long recess coming up where we always intended to start our campaign, and that's what will happen.
Nonetheless, the government is